got to recorded this. So
Happens
here
to
we
me
are,
all the time.
and we're recording, and this is the Roundtable Series COVID-19 response for August 20th, 2020. And if you have people that call and ask you, this session is recording. And so, kind of most folks I know are having school, and it's been something for some instances since April. And so I love this slide. When you have teachers and students, they let schools begin. And there's Mr. Cotter and the Sweat Hogs, and I said, "Do you miss me?" And I'm sure most of the students, whether they admitted it or not, miss their teachers, just like the Sweat Hogs did with Mr. Cotter. That's a pretty new show, so I'm sure everybody gets that reference. The Texas Education Agency released new public health guidance on August 4th, 2020, and they released new attendance and enrollment guidance on August 13th, 2020. Now, on the public health guidance, nothing really changed since our last meeting, and of course, they have in there about providing notice, preventing the virus from entering your school, the required practices if a lab-confirmed case is in the school, and then the recommended and required practices to reduce the likelihood of the spread of the virus inside the school. In the public health planning, this still remains the case, but students must attend 90% of the days a course is offered to be awarded credit. Attendance may be earned through the delivery of virtual instruction, and we know that that's remote synchronous, remote asynchronous, or a hybrid model, or the three eligible delivery methods for virtual instruction. And school systems are permitted to limit virtual to on-campus transitions to the end of the grading period. Although what I'm hearing is if the schools, if they're going from virtual to on-campus in the early going, they're going ahead and taking them back for the most part. In the case of an individual who's been diagnosed with COVID-19, all three of the following criteria must be met. 24 hours passed since the recovery of the since recovery, and that's a resolution of the fever without using fever-reducing medication. Also, the individual has improvement in symptoms. For example, they no longer have shortness of breath or cough. And third, at least 10 days has passed since symptoms first appeared. In the case of an individual, student, or teacher has symptoms that could be COVID-19, and they do not go get tested and they're not evaluated by a medical profession, then that individual is assumed to have COVID-19. And so you have to follow those protocols in the public health guidance. And then in attendance and enrollment, the time that a student spends in work-based learning can be included in the daily instructional minute calculation, just like always. Work-based learning opportunities could include internships, externships, apprentices, mentorships, and as we learned from our Q&A with Ryan on the 13th, that even virtual internships and externships are available. And if the student has the ability to work remotely from home, like many of us have been doing for a month or for months, then that student can certainly work from home as part of their co-op job. CTE classes earn full funding through all the remote methods, and all CTE, the TEA has determined that all CTE courses can be provided through remote instruction or a combination of remote and on-campus instruction. However, local districts have the flexibility to make the determination based on student need, what is available for courses, and the mandate for on-campus instruction. Again, this hasn't changed, and basically what this says is that the 45 minutes per day, that you can combine the minutes through on-campus and asynchronous, on-campus and synchronous, synchronous and asynchronous. You can combine all three types of instructional delivery to meet that 450 minutes over a 10-day period. Here are the new things that are in the updated from August 13th. And the question was, under the asynchronous instructional method, if a student fails to complete Monday's assignments and later in the week completes it, can the student's attendance code be changed to remote asynchronous present for Monday? And the answer to this is no. Their attendance is measured on the student engagement daily, and that attendance is assigned based on the student's completion of that day's engagement measure. So a student can't go back and make up the work and be counted present for Monday. They have to engage in that asynchronous activity in order to get credit for that day. And then another very similar question, if the student is working under remote asynchronous and the student decides to complete the entire week's worth of work on Monday, can the student's attendance be coded to show perfect attendance for the week? And again, this is a similar answer, and it's no. The remote asynchronous instructional method, the student engagement is measured daily, and the attendance is assigned based on the student's completion of that day's engagement measure. So the student has to do the work assigned for that day. They have to be engaged in the activity assigned for that day in order to meet the attendance requirement. And then the other question here, if a student who is originally scheduled to receive instruction through the on-campus or synchronous instructional method is not present at the designated official attendance time, could the student be marked present for the day by engaging in remote asynchronous method? And then the answer was, a student who is scheduled to receive on-campus or synchronous instruction but is not present can still be marked present if the student is engaged in remote asynchronous method on the same day. So again, it's all daily attendance is just that, daily attendance. It's what has the student done that day. They can be on campus, they can be there through some type of synchronous model, or they can be counted present by engaging in that activity through asynchronous remote learning. Again, as always, all of this information is available at the District Waivers, Finance, and Grants page, which is linked from the COVID-19 support page at TEA. And I encourage you to make sure that you read these documents and be the expert in your district. And just one of the things here, I just wanted to make you guys aware of some of the programming that we're doing at CTAT. We have the Next Gen Administrators going on. This afternoon will be our first session of the New Teacher Academy. We have this as the COVID Roundtable. The midwinter conferences, we're not sure what those are going to look like yet, but we'll shortly. And then, of course, we're still doing district program evaluations if you have a need for one of those. Rest easy, because help is on the way, is what I keep hearing on the news. And we should have a cure shortly, I hope. We'll see. Okay, now we're at the time for questions and your discussion, and you're all here to learn from each other. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and return to the gallery view, where we can all see the lovely faces, energetic faces on there today. So let's see, I think Kyle Horton. Kyle, are you in here yet? Kyle Holton from Marble Falls. Hey, he brought up a question that I think a lot of people are wondering. Go ahead, Kyle, if you want to kick off with that question.
Well, we are working on trying to get our labs scheduled for our CTE classes that we're going to require labs for, such as welding and our CNA program. And we're just curious. One is, how are other schools doing that? How are they doing their labs? Because we're afraid we're going to run into where we're going to schedule welding lab on Tuesday afternoons, but that kid may also have an engineering lab on a Tuesday afternoon. So how are other people doing that?
We're doing useful is we actually have students coming to school for those cosmetology, CNA, welding, the courses that the district has deemed that students need to come, and they actually have to come during that class period. And they have to provide their own transportation. They come in through the shop door and they leave through the shop door during that class period. That way it doesn't conflict with anything else they need to come to school for, like athletics, band, or dance.
That's what we're doing as well. Once we go to where there are students, we don't have students coming on campus right now until September 28th. But when we hit that point, students who choose virtual learning for the first 9 weeks can come to their CTE courses, providing their own transportation. We're treating it just like anything that's UIL, as far as, band, sports, and things like that.
Hey, Kyle, this is Ashley from Midway.
Ashley.
We designated a handful of our classes as what we're calling hybrid. And so they are for virtual learners and can do most of the learning virtually, but have some lab component like what you're talking about. And we've designated our, what we're calling a chill hour, that's CTE hybrid instructional learning lab, on Wednesdays from 4:15 to 5:15. And it may be that one student has one hybrid class and they just coordinate with that teacher on which Wednesdays they come. It may not end up being every Wednesday, or they may be enrolled in 3 hybrid classes and have to kind of find a way to coordinate communicating with the 3 teachers which Wednesdays they'll be needed. Some classes feel like they may need them most every Wednesday for that skill time. Some feel like it won't be as frequent and that they'll be able to kind of share time and it's going to be as needed. We had our counselors call every student and every family that was enrolled in one of those hybrid classes to explain what this chill time was going to be after school, that they need to at least be able to commit to every Wednesday for that 1 hour with their own transportation. And if they couldn't, then they were free to look at a fully virtual course. We kind of worked with them on another option, but that's how we're doing it. We did have our engineering classes feel like that still wouldn't be an adequate time. And so the engineering classes requested full face-to-face. So we do have students, about 30, that have committed to come on campus during their scheduled period every day, just to the engineering class and back.
Are y'all supplementing those teachers that are staying those Wednesdays?
Yes, I am working on a stipend. I'm kind of designing it. It's multiple parts, but I'll individualize a stipend for any teachers affected by that. And our school board just approved that on Tuesday. 1 year stipend for that.
Yeah.
Hey, Ashley, how are you handling the required chill time for students in special ed and requiring that they have their own transportation? Has that been a comment or an issue?
It hasn't come up. If we needed to figure that out, we would. That's why we asked that our counselors make a personal phone call to every family. But no family at this point felt that that was an issue. They've either committed to coming, knowing it was outside of the school day. That made some feel better, but some were like, you know what, I can take that class next year. I'll take this other virtual class this year and we'll pick that up next year. Generally speaking, not just special education, but we were going to be willing to make whatever accommodations necessary for special education. It just didn't, that request didn't come up.
Kyle, to answer your question at Waxahachie, we tried to get them to pay them for like a tutorial period after school, and it got denied pretty quick above us because, like you said, with all the online learning and in person that we're doing, they don't have enough time in the day, and then we're expecting them to stay after for labs. But a lot of our teachers don't want to lose these kids in their programs, so they're okay with it, and they understand, like, I don't want to lose all my online learners because they can't come do the lab in person, whether it's welding or automotive or whatever they're doing it for. So they're kind of setting it up on their own, but we got denied for extra stipends pretty quick.
Well, we have several classes that are doing the after school labs, and most of ours are on like a every other week rotation, because we feel like, hey, if I have 5 kids come every other week, I can kind of get the same amount done with those 5 versus the 25 that are in the class. But then it's hard to, when you have 3 different pathways that are doing it after school. I'm just afraid what's going to happen when we have kids in 2 different CTE classes requiring labs. I guess that's just a bridge we're going to have to cross. Nobody's crossed that bridge yet, so we're all working on the same thing.
I know that many of the districts are going, they're beginning remote only for the first 4 weeks. Are any districts experiencing any trouble, or do you have any tips for those of you that are going full remote for the first 4 weeks?
So we're remote in Round Rock, and we just started today, day 1. Yay! Technical difficulties and all, but it's not too bad from what we know. My husband and then our daughter are both in another district, and they've been on for the week. And I would just say keep it simple, like especially teachers. I love all of the Bitmoji, virtual classrooms and all of those kind of things. But if you've got a lot of people on the same internet stream, or even just really
like a
junky internet.
Taco
I want a crunchy taco too.
Tostada.
Okay. But if you can just keep it simpler so that those things can download to start with, I think that's the biggest thing. Just be aware of the bandwidth that's being asked to use.
That's a great tip. Anyone else? I was actually wondering if that was going to be a problem, Ms. Morgan, for every district.
Well, we are in Granbury ISD, and we actually started face-to-face last Wednesday with about 20% of our students in the district going virtual. And so it's going well. We're all having to wear a mask, except if we're obviously in our office. Our biggest challenge, and we've said the same thing, I think that's great advice, is to start slow. And we just want to really start slow so later on you can go fast, just to get our feet underneath us. And everybody's pretty much embraced that. It's been good to see kids back. It's been great to see the students in the band back outside practicing, and just the students here. So it is smaller. Our challenge has definitely been 100% the virtual, not only at the high school level, secondary level, I should say, but mostly at the elementary level. Some big challenges. I just got off of Zoom with our secondary admin team and central office team. And our big question for what we're looking at is, as we have students that have shown up for the first few days and then decided, I think we'll just go virtual. So our virtual numbers now are starting to grow. Anywhere from 15 to 25 students at the high school level are just saying, you know what, I'm just going to go virtual, whether it's the mask that's getting them or other things that are getting them. Our big question is, and I heard about the stipend earlier, is there criteria that any other districts have for, or a cutoff line for a teacher to receive a stipend, especially in the area of our CTE, because they're just the only teachers for those specific programs of study. So that's been our biggest challenge. If anyone has good advice, that's great. I'd love to hear it.
I can speak to the stipend piece. It was a little bit of a heavy lift trying to convince the higher ups that why CTE teachers needed something that no other teacher is getting. In our district, all of our core teachers at the high school and our foreign language department, they all get a PLC. period every day that my CTE teachers don't get. So that was my first argument. Secondly, CTE teachers often teach multiple course preps, and very often they're the only ones that teach those preps. So they don't have a planning team, people who can share plan and things like that. So part of my stipend, I'm still working on the structure, but part of the stipend will be based on the number of preps a teacher is teaching, whether or not they have anyone to help them with those preps or if they're kind of on their own there. Some of our teachers happen to have an additional period off, but it is for a purpose. It's not a PLC. And so I'm trying to make sure my higher ups understand that additional period off, they're still doing something else. It doesn't mean that that's an additional virtual period or something for them to plan there. And then the hybrid lab piece after school was a component. And quite honestly, the expectation that our CTE classes are generating enough content for our virtual learners to justify a 45-minute a day engagement. That's different. I hate to say that like in a judgmental or condescending way, but that's a little different than engaging in English, where you can have a conversation or, you know, get on a discussion board in your learning management system and reply to a comment that doesn't take 45 minutes and they're getting check marked for their engagement for ADA purposes. But when you talk about weighted funding purposes in the CTE environment, we're supposed to be creating content to ensure their engagement for 45 minutes a day. That's different than any other content area. And so those were kind of the components that I used to justify the need for the stipend. In addition to the fact that the teachers are generating the money with the kids in their seats anyway. And our teachers, I mean, I've got several that they're just ready to run for the hills, and a stipend doesn't change their anxiety and their stress, but it does make them feel valued and like someone's advocating for them and acknowledges that what they're doing is different than any other content in the district. So those were kind of the components I used to justify.
Ashley,
Really helpful. Thank you.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Do you have is it like an extra class period for their daily rate, or is it going to be a set number, or is that the component you're still working on?
I'm still working on that, but I'm just going to kind of, I mean, for lack of a better, I'm going to say like this component will be valued at $500. This component will be valued at $1,000 or whatever the case may be. I'm going to just kind of come up with the criteria and what the value of each is, and then apply that to each individual teacher based on how many preps they have, what their case is. Do they have a hybrid class where they're expected to stay after on Wednesdays, etc.?
Will you share that with Heather?
I sure will.
Ashley, you were talking about making sure that you provide that 45 minutes for that engagement for the CTE funding. And one of the, if you were in the question answer session that we had with Ryan back on the 13th,
Mm-hmm.
then one of the things that came up was if you'll go to the TX CTE, the Texas On course, and where all those resources are, and each class has a scope and sequence, and that scope and sequence has the amount of time per unit. So if you were going to justify how much time a unit or a topic covered, TEA has done that in many, many instances for you. So go and get that, and because that's on the TEA website. They can't.
And it's like the justification.
Sure, yeah, they can't
Thank
refute.
you.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that. Thanks, Mark. I remember him talking about that now, so I appreciate that.
You betcha.
Hey everybody, it's Tracy Hendricks from Pflugerville. I have a technology question. I'm sure this has come up 1,400 times. Anybody got a solution for electronic signatures for all the practical and career prep PDR documents? Other than something paid? Because boy, are we running out of money.
Tracy, have you tried the PDF documents that are on the website under work-based learning?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is find a way for students and parents to be able to fill in the PDFs and electronically sign them and send them back. But what we're hearing is that they are not able to do it with Reader.
If you have,
Hey, Tracy.
if you have the Adobe suite, I know there's a signature section in there. We have been last year we sent all of our paperwork and had it all processed through Laserfish through our technology department, and we had some issues. We tried to work with a company this year that we use for our scholarship program. It's called Kaleidoscope, and a lot of the foundations work with them. Excellent company. And they are very interested in looking at making all these forms digital for us. But the problem is they weren't on our buy board, so we just couldn't purchase from them. But if there's another company that's interested in using Kaleidoscope, they're ready to set up all this paperwork, your MOUs, everything digitally.
All of the grants that go through TEA that require electronic signatures are done on a PDF. And you don't have to have you don't have to have the full Adobe version to sign, but they probably have to have the Adobe version to make that document. And so I will look into that for you guys if you can't find it before. And I know Robin had one that she had. Robin, did you ever get the one you were working on solidified?
I don't know if it's working properly because you tried to test it, it didn't work, but I'll tell you what, I'll post a link here and hopefully it will work if you've got the Acrobat suite.
Tracy, one real simple solution is most phones, you can download the free app Genius Scan, and you can just take a picture of the document. It's real clean. It converts it to a PDF or a JPEG, and then they can forward it right from their phone to your email.
Thank you. Jessica, can you talk about that? Is it Cami? Is that how you say that?
Yes, ma'am. It's just a Google extension. So if you just type into your web browser, Cami Google extension, and then it's free, students can have it. So we are using Canvas at our district. So teachers are putting their PDFs into Canvas, and then they're just signing it with Cami. But they can highlight, they can text, they can whatever they want to do on the PDF. Cami allows them to edit it.
Thank you. Somebody on our technology team had told us to check out PDF Candy, and that one, I mean, it let me go into a PDF and type in it and then sign it, but then someone else tried it on a non-district device and they weren't able to do it, and then somebody tried it on a district device and they weren't able to do it. So it was like hit or miss as to whether it was working. So you think with the Cami, it should be across all devices? Okay.
I think so. It's a Google extension, but if you're a Google campus, I think that it should work really well.
Okay. And then Bruce, you were talking about Genius Scan, and I think is the issue with that they would actually have to be able to fill out the form, like print it, fill it out, and then take a picture of it?
That is a limitation of that, yes.
Okay, I was just making sure I wanted to make sure I understood that right. Thank you all, appreciate it.
Hey, Tracy, one of our team members has been looking into solutions, and she looked at all kinds of stuff, DocuSign and Adobe and a couple of others. Our special ed department uses Frontline. And so today we think we got the okay to move forward with Frontline, but that's how they're signing all of their ARD meetings and notes and all of those kind of things. So I don't know what your sped folks are using, but you might be able to piggyback on them.
That's fantastic because they actually use Frontline. So I will check.
Hey, maybe it'll work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Morgan asked if anyone is running into problems combining the CTE courses and the Tech Apps courses. Of course, that just became active August 1st. So is anyone, is that hair, lip, and the governor with anyone?
Yeah, and just to kind of elaborate on that, and pardon me, I'm eating a taco while I speak. I know with districts, it's going to depend how you were originally set up, but where we're running into or ran into issues is that we were offering the computer science curriculum through computer programming. Okay, and so now computer programming doesn't exist as a duplicate course. It was, I think, Computer Science 1 kind of won over on that. So we can go to computer science courses, but the computer science courses don't have the same teacher certification. So when the teacher was teaching technically computer programming, you know, it's like tech ed, and I don't remember tech ed. I don't remember if business was part of it, tech apps or whatever. But then now that we're shifting the course in the system to computer science, now all of a sudden the teacher needs a computer science cert. Now, when I do go on to the Texas Administrative Code for teacher certifications, the old courses are still on there. So I was kind of wondering if just the Texas Administrative Code, the SBEC certification, has not caught up yet with the merge that happened between Tech Apps and CTE, and that eventually they are going to say, okay, we merged these two courses, so let's look at the teacher certifications that apply for both courses, not just one, and make those allowable certifications. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I see happening. So just if anyone has any information about movement on teacher certifications, or even Mark and Robin, if that has been talked about, you know, at a higher level.
Yeah, Dana, this is Robin. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is probably get your, because we've been sending out information on that and the proposed rules from SBEC, but I know for whatever reason, the firewall at your district is blocking our emails. So we should probably just go ahead and replace yours with your personal email. But I'm going to send you a link to the proposed rules. Oh, and the other thing is the courses that are going away are still listed because students that haven't graduated yet still have to be tied to a course. So those are not yet out of the system.
Well, they're listed in Texas Administrative Code, but they're not listed in the CO22 table anymore. Okay.
Right, but it's but students that are still working their way through the system have to, you know, their records have to tie back somewhere. So until the, you know, I guess implementation period,
right,
maybe 4 years before they retire those names.
They won't be active courses, but they'll still be in everyone's course history. And I just posted the computer science teaching requirements that are in current. And just like Robin's posted a couple of times in the chat box, what the proposal is for the computer science courses.
Okay, I'll look it up. But just real quick, are they considering adding tech ed and or tech apps to it?
For computer science, I don't think so.
Oh. Okay.
I think it's more likely that trades and industrial will be, and I'm trying to find that right now.
Yeah,
hey, Mark or Robin, aren't they opening that up for public comment for the next month?
Yes, actually,
yes.
I think they'll take it now, but officially, I think it starts August 22nd.
Okay.
So Robin, I've tried that and they sent me an email back saying it wasn't open yet and that I had to wait.
I mean, I think it's like, in summary, I feel like what we need to do is that take all the certifications that were there for both courses, for any courses that have been deleted for being duplicated. I mean, I can put in the public comment, but if possible, I'd like CTAT to get behind us in that also, so it's a bigger voice, because we have a few CTE
Ms. Morgan,
right now with the Tech Ed cert that as of this year.
I just opened up that document, and so when it comes time for public comment, that's one of the things I agree with you. We really need to rally on, because in that document that's posted as a link there, they say that they talk about moving the course, but they say no, there's no, they have no intention to add to the list of certifications. So that's something that we probably really need to rally on.
And at a minimum, I would encourage everybody to request a year's grace period so that if you've got teachers that were previously teaching computer programming, that they have the time necessary to, there's even a certification course through University of Texas, and they provide $1,000 stipend. So, and I've heard they've had a really good pass rate for computer science, but that at least if we had a grace period of a year would give teachers time to get that certification.
Yes.
So can I comment about the computer science? So I know some teachers have taken that UT course, passed it with like a 98, and then can't pass the certification exam because it's somewhat, a lot different.
And that does fall under a district of innovation. So if you're a district of innovation, that helps. But I can see this being an issue. What else do we have? Those some great points. Let's see. Bonnie asked if is anyone utilizing Odysseyware for CTE virtual learning and attendance tracking? Anyone engaged in Odysseyware?
Odysseyware, the same thing as Edgenuity, didn't they buy each other out? We have purchased that, but we've only been going for 2 days, so I'll let you know.
Bonnie, is this something that y'all are currently using, or is it something you're looking at?
No, it's what we have implemented for this year. We're giving it a try. I mean, we've used Odysseyware in the past for credit recovery and things like that. But being that it had the tracking capabilities of time stamping, and I know that there's been some things that have come out recently with TEA and attendance and, tracking time. But to us, this was kind of like that backup buffer to have if something was to change and they come back and say, no, we need to see that you were tracking by time. So we went through I went through and I chose courses that correlated with what we already offered on campus that was also offered in Odysseyware for us to be able to have those as options. We do not offer everything that is in our CTE program to kids that are in virtual learning. They were only given a certain handful of options, and those were the things that we were able to do through Odysseyware because we're not capable of getting transportation to students to do a back and forth thing during the day. A lot of our students don't have their own transportation either. So opening up and having lab opportunities for students that are doing virtual learning wasn't a possibility for us. So that's why we went that route. So I was just wondering if anybody else had thought of that or was trying it and what the thoughts were.
I do know at one time Odysseyware had a nice selection of CTE courses, and they would work just fine. It's like any of those. They didn't have you might could finish Intro to Health or Principles of Health Science in 4 weeks instead of it taking a year. But that's going to be true of any of them, I'm afraid. But part of the reason why we were using that program is so students could, like you said, credit recovery and for acceleration. But they did have a good selection of CTE courses for you to choose from.
And we've assigned a certain CTE teachers. We've given them a virtual period, so they will monitor the kids that are put into those Odysseyware classes and monitor their progress and help track that attendance. So not all of our CTE teachers have a virtual period, but they also don't have virtual students. Like I said before, most of our CTE classes are being kept as in-person attendance only, unless you go through the 4 Odyssey Wear classes that we've chosen to represent our CTE time.
And even on Odyssey, where if the student is spending 45 minutes a day and there's a certified teacher there, you can turn that funding on for as long as that student is active,
Right.
for 45 minutes a day.
Right, and so all the teachers that are monitoring it are CTE certified, and those are the courses that they actually are teaching in person as well. So that kind of helps balance that out. They are overwhelmed right now, my poor teachers. It seems like every day our list of virtual learners grows, and like you said before at the beginning, we started out with saying, if you declare what you're going to do at the beginning of school, then you can't change. But right here at the beginning, because yesterday was our first day, so we're on day 2. But we are allowing these kids to come in and make that change. But we've also had kids that were face-to-face that are now changing to virtual. So our list of virtual learners and those in Odyssey Wear is growing by the day. And so my poor teachers, they're like drowning, but they're hanging in there and they're rowing in the boat as best as they can. So,
letting those kids switch back and forth, you got to choose which hill you're willing to die on. And so, what can you really hold over them? Well, I'm going virtual.
Right.
Send me assignments or not, I don't care.
We're all hoping that the people above us draw the line and say, okay, we've stopped it for now. And at this point, you'll have to wait till the 6 weeks to come back, because it is causing some trouble and some scheduling issues overall. But for us being, like I said, where we are, what we have available to us, Odyssey Wear was one of the things we could do that would help kind of cover a lot of different things at once. So
Ryan had a question that I know is on everybody's mind, and especially the health science practicums. Are any hospitals, or are they allowing students to come in and do observations? Is anybody getting any news on that across the state? Everybody's a no, or?
We've gotten a confirmed no for the fall semester. And right now we're hearing 50-50 on the spring.
50-50 on, well, 50-50, not bad.
I was surprised. I was expecting worse. So we'll take a 50-50 shot.
Right.
I did talk to a couple schools and they had luck finding placement sites, but I put it in the chat, but not at hospitals. So opportunities for them to still get some of those clinical hours, but just not at a hospital setting. So
is anyone using their school nurses? Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Yeah, they don't all have to be at the hospital. And is anyone using their school nurses as rotation sites?
I'll go ahead and talk again, sorry. Not necessarily school nurses, but some school districts have like clinics that they offer, like employee type clinics, that kind of stuff, where people can come in and do basic well checks or something like that. And they're allowing students there, but not necessarily with students coming in because of, like somebody put in the comments, HIPAA, FERPA concerns. But if they have a clinic type setting, then they are. But the problem there is that they don't have enough time or resources for all their students to get through that are in their health science programs.
I can share with you what we're doing in Clear Creek ISD. Not that this is ideal, but I feel good about it, and teachers feel good about it, and the students. What we've done, instead of just hanging out here and waiting to see if hospitals will ever let us in, we just made a decision as a district that the clinical rotations will be suspended for the year. And we did not offer the 2-period practicum course. We changed it to the 1-credit theory, and we communicated to all the students, and they were all fine with it. So all of the same students that had been accepted into the clinical rotations did stay in the theory course. So they still will get like an advanced level of health science instruction beyond the principles of health science this year. And one of the reasons that we really like doing that is because we didn't want a student to, let's just try to make something work. Let's try to make something work all year. And then they don't get a good experience. And now they've already got the credit on their transcript. They can't come back next year and take the course because they've already received credit for it. Now, I know our seniors are gone, but as far as our juniors, this still allows them the opportunity to take the course next year with possibly the full experience of hospital visitations. So that's why we did it. And I mean, everybody has been pretty happy about it. The kids that are staying in the 1 credit theory course this year are going to have a go at it again and try to get into clinicals if we can open up clinicals next year.
Everybody's just doing the best they can do. Does anyone have any, Karen asked about CNA courses, about possibly getting into the nursing homes. I would think that'd be one of the harder visitation sites to get into, but I'm not sure. And it seems like I remember on the roundtable that someone had a virtual component they were allowing to get their lab hours in class. And am I going nuts here, or did I hear that the last roundtable?
The Health and Human Services, Mark, this might be what you're thinking about, but they've
Yes, ma'am.
waived the in-clinic hours for the time being. And so your teachers, the instructor, whoever that is, can actually do the hours at school, those 40 out of the 100. So it used to be, 60 hours by the teacher, 40 hours in the clinic. Now all 100 hours can be done by the teacher, but nobody knows when that waiver will go away. And if the waiver goes away, can we still use the hours completed before they actually test or not? But that information, I think somebody shared in the forum a couple of weeks ago.
They did for sure, Ms. Bonds. Thank you. And I just forgot where that information come from. It was from Health and Human Services, and they did waive that, but I don't see that waiver going away this year. Do you?
I wouldn't think so, not anytime soon, but we'll see. We'll gamble.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So Karen, I hope that answered you. And also Robin posted in there from the We Teach computer science courses. She posted that link in there, and she said that that's the content that they need to get certified in computer science. And there's a charge for a course, but if they pass it, then they get $1,000 stipend. And Robin, that was sent to us back in the spring when the COVID first hit. So I know that we've had several districts that have utilized the We Teach platform.
It's a great program. I actually went through it, and it is, when you pass your certification test, you submit the information, you get a check for $1,000. I actually was fortunate enough, I went through a cohort with Region 13, and that one actually, we got a computer, we got all kinds of stuff. It was up on a grant, but they absolutely are still doing the $1,000. I've been in contact with Carol Fletcher just recently, and they're still doing it.
Rick, you think if I sent you my email and password, you could hook me up with 1,000 on a quick test?
Yes, I'm not going to say with what score.
Hey, P or F is all I care about. Hey, Rick, seriously though, did you feel that the We Teach prepared you for the exit?
Absolutely. It prepared me for and I was totally prepared for the test. John Owen, if anybody knows him, is an incredible instructor. Used to teach computer science, and now he does a lot of their training for We Teach CS. And
what was the class kind of virtual like this, or was it all this?
I did it
modular, but
3 years ago or 4 years ago, and we met at Region 13 periodically throughout the year. And
how many
study
sessions would you,
materials.
because that's something maybe if there's a big enough need, Robin, I'm just thinking out loud that we could offer that maybe through CTAT, and then the teachers, you know, could, because CTAT's a vendor, you know, just logistically it might be easy. So how many sessions would you say it took you to get through that?
I want to say we met 6 times maybe. And it was over a period of time, and there were assignments between. Seriously, Carol Fletcher would be the person to contact at.
That's okay, I can get it.
Just to chime in, UT has also applied for another grant like what Rick is talking about, where they'll do cohorts around the state. And I know that there's several ESCs that are part of it, and they'll recruit teachers, and they get the stipend he's talking about, but also additional, if they participate in all of the PD, they'll get additional stipends as well. So those opportunities might be available again.
I just put Carol's email address in the chat box.
That question is going to persist the entire year, because as people are transitioning from computer programming to computer science and they begin to look up teacher certifications, they're going to need that information. So I'm glad that came up in Roundtable. Janelle Humphreys asked the question in the box, does anyone know if any concessions or requirements are being relaxed for students needing hours to complete certifications? He's having difficulty, you know, veterinarians, and I think, Janelle, that's going to be from certification to certification to certification. Some will, some won't. It sounds like that for the CNA, they have relaxed that, and of course there's the waiver there, and for others, pass the exam to get the test regardless of the hour. So I think that that's going to be from certification to certification unless someone knows a specific. Janelle, did you have a specific certification other than vet assistant?
Mark, it's Rochelle. I actually, I don't know, I must have clicked on the link from Janelle's invitation, but this is Rochelle.
Okay.
And Dallas ISD. So yeah, that's the one that I was asking about particularly. However, Janelle is on the line as well, and I'll have her chime in. But my issue, yeah, is the vet assistant certification, to see if anyone knows if they have relaxed any of the standards, or do they have to complete the number of hours, because we have several seniors that are coming out this year and we don't have an opportunity for them to be placed anywhere.
Are y'all working through Cedar Valley College, or do you?
No,
not at this time.
Okay. It's your own program in-house?
Yes.
So I'm sorry, I know the one who typed in the chat isn't Janelle. What did you say your name was? I'm sorry.
Hey, Rochelle McMillan.
Rochelle, okay, sorry. So Rochelle, this doesn't exactly answer your question, but we have a teacher who was just able to place all 12 of her interns with vet clinics. And so if you think it would be helpful, I can absolutely connect her with your teacher to see what she did that made that work. If you think that would be helpful.
Absolutely, that would be amazing, yes.
Can you put your email in the chat for me, and I will get that communication started?
As we speak, yes, ma'am.
That's why we begged Tracy to do that at new administrator training at conference.
I should have brought her if y'all wanted something like that. I don't know what she did, but she got all 12 of them placed. So
yeah, you use, and of course it's going to be from community to community, but I would think that the vets in general would be pretty good to work with on that.
Well, all I know from our side is that we checked in with our executive director of health and safety and asked, you know, when we get ready to start placing these students in their internship sites, is there anything beyond the current, whatever the current is, health and safety protocols that we should put into place? And we were told, no, whatever the district has set in place is what we should use. But if the partner has health and safety protocols that go beyond that, then we would make sure that our students follow those. And that seemed to go a long way with the clinics when she had those conversations, was to assure them that we had protocols in place, but that we would also be following whatever their protocols were. So our students will actually whether they're on campus or virtual, depend how they do this, but they will check in with the teacher and go through a health and safety protocol check sheet before they go to their clinics every day. And so that seemed to give them some comfort as well.
I think one of the main concerns or one of the main issues that I'm coming up against is that many of the vet hospitals that we're approaching are at limited capacity. They only have 25% of their own staff working in the facility, and don't want to, you know, if they could bring back their whole staff at 100%, they prefer to do that as opposed to, you know, utilizing the space with students.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I will say what we have done in Hayes is we have postponed all outside practicums for the first 9 weeks. And we're going to reevaluate at that point. But some things that have happened, like I talked to our criminal justice teacher, and one of the things that she has done is she has reached out to local agencies, and all of their training PowerPoints, our students are going to be updating their training PowerPoints at the student's home, working on those in collaboration with the agency. They're also being asked that we have a SRP drill that we do every year as far as the safety and security. They're being asked to come up with ideas for that, viewing the previous videos, what are the updates that need to be done, providing feedback. So she's reaching out to agencies and saying, I have this group of students that I have available to do work for you. And what is it that we can do virtually to benefit you? And so that relationship has really helped.
Yeah, that's the kind of, I hate to use the term out of the box because it's a pretty big cliche, but I'm gonna say creative. Yeah, it's gonna take some creative thinking to get through some of these internships and practicums and some of our courses. Okay, we're reaching at 3:29 here, and we always try to go an hour, so we want to be respectful of your time, but also we don't want to cut anyone short on getting a question in. So if you have a question or something you would like some opinions from other districts, go ahead and jump in there now if you can.
Mark, I've got one, and we don't have to talk about it right now. I'll put my email in the chat in case anybody has an idea. But I'm wondering, I was going to put the question in the chat, but I have no idea how to word this, so I'm going to do the best I can. As we work towards the transition back to on-campus learning, does anybody have a good plan in place for what you're going to do with teachers who will not be returning to campus because of OUAA? And, you know, moving courses around if you have to, or like, so I'm just curious what people are planning for that.
Well, that's a great discussion point. Has anybody even got that far ahead in their planning yet? If someone called me asking about that, I'd probably say call Tracy or Ashley or one of those overachievers that are thinking ahead all the time.
I was just going to say,
even know what
OUAA
means.
The rest of everybody look dumb.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't even know if I know exactly, but it's vulnerable. It's the people who qualify for vulnerable individuals.
They're high
risk.
High risk, right?
Yeah, there's a list of criteria that you have to meet in order to be designated as a vulnerable individual and not have to report back.
So Tracy, do you have CTE teachers that are falling under that right now that are working from home?
I do.
Okay, I don't. So I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Well, we had a really interesting situation in our district where anybody in the district could put in a request for an alternative work arrangement. That did not mean it was going to be approved. And it was interesting to see the number. I mean, I have no judgment one way or the other, but it was interesting to see how many CTE teachers applied for that. The problem is most of them are singletons. They're the only people who teach those courses. So that left human resources with a really big conundrum. That was my big word for the day, y'all. Don't ask for any more.
I think I've already forgot what it was.
A quick Google search says OUAA is opening up America again.
Okay, so that must be the umbrella for, okay, sorry. So it's vulnerable individuals.
Vulnerable individuals, yeah.
Do they make a cap with that on it? Okay, you know, Tracy, nobody's really talking about this, but at some point that's going to be an issue. And
we do have one, Mark. I can
go ahead, Jimmy.
Very quickly, we have an art teacher that falls under that category. And as of right now, he's out in his shop at home and basically zooming in on the big screen. And he is teaching them virtually. And the students that are in there face-to-face are with a sub right now. And that has been actually working because he's a fantastic, fantastic teacher, but he is at high risk. And so they're making it work for now. And that was just to get it started and to see how it's going. So far, it's going okay. And we'll, every day is a new day. So they're just going to see how this first few weeks goes. But he is getting to actually teach virtually. And I do believe there had to be some documentation from a physician to allow him to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And those are, anecdotally, I bet there's going to be a lot of teachers like that. And I think to Tracy's point, what's going to happen when we have to bring those teachers back? Because, if we ever come back 100% on campus, you're going to have all hands on deck at that point. And so at some point in the future, that's going to be an issue for sure. And then Miss Bonds posted in the chat box from the Round Rock ISD leave of absence, and that document may help some folks as far as what the teachers' rights and responsibilities are via Round Rock ISD.
Mark, I also threw something in the chat box. If you're making the transition to Schoology, we made that transition, and when we looked to find a Schoology Facebook group for teachers to go to, there was not one. So, of course, what did Susie do? She created one. And so the link to that is in the chat. Anybody that wants to join, the one thing we ask is that they answer the questions, because we're trying not to let just the whole world in, but only actually CTE teachers. So there's a series of 4 questions, basically, what do you teach? What state are you in? We have over 500 members from over 35 states. And so it's just a place where if you have teachers that are looking for Schoology resources, it might be a good place to send them.
And Rick, your district you purchased Schoology a week before. Is that what you were saying earlier?
We sent the check a week before the state said they'd give it to us for free. And so rather than getting the money back or whatever, we were adopting either way. And so we actually get years 2 and 3 free. We paid for year 1.
That's still a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And let's see, Robin, Lindsay has that, and we have monitors for excuse me, there was a CTAT group that set up, or were they talking about the same Facebook group?
I'm throwing it in the chat right now.
Okay.
And there's also one for marketing. Hang tight, I'll grab that link too.
but they're different Facebook groups. Am I correct in saying that? And so there's a couple of different resources or social media access to Schoology and some other. And if you're not using the Connect CTAT, I encourage you to go on there because administrators post on there every day and they get answers back almost immediately. See, we can't get the answers out there fast enough because the administrators are so great about sharing what they do and sharing the answers. And Vonnie just posted a FCS Facebook group. If you do have one of those Facebook groups that you would like to publicize, if you would email that to Robin or I, and we'll try to get that out there just like we're doing now. Because I think more teachers would like to know about them. It's just we don't know about every group that's out there, but we could sure publicize the best ones, just like you guys are doing. Okay. Any other topics? Well, it is 3:38, and I'm going to stop the recording. But before I do, I sure want to tell everyone I know that it'd be better if we had another reason to get together and have a meeting, but it sure is nice to see everyone, and it's good to hear from everyone. And I know that people from different parts of the state, different things happen in different parts of the state, and so it's good that everyone gets to hear that. And I think that's really unique. So we really appreciate that. And Vonnie, what are you holding up there? You got to unmute. We can't.
I said, everyone just breathe.
Oh, there you go. I think I can handle that one. All right. Well, thank you a lot. Now I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you for being with us today and all your responses and input.